Hi guys, today's video is going to be about calculating investment returns and understanding benchmarks. So what are investment returns? Investment returns refer to how much money you gain or lose from your investment, and it is normally given as a percentage. So to calculate investment returns, it is the final value minus your initial investment divided by your initial investment multiplied by 100%. So for example, if you invested 1000 ringgit and the final value grew to be 1200 ringgit, then the return on your investment would be 20%. So why does it matter to set a goal for your investment returns? So it helps you stay focused, it prevents unrealistic expectations, it guides your investment choices, and it lets you measure the success of your investment. So moving on to investment benchmarks. Investment benchmarks is something you compare your investment against. And in my opinion, I think it is important to have an investment benchmark for your strategy, for your investment, and also to assess your investment. So normally the most common investment benchmark is the stock market index. So you would compare the performance of your investment to the overall market performance. And for example, in Malaysia, you may compare it to Bursa, or in the US, you may compare it to Nasdaq or S&P 500 in the same time period. So other common investment benchmarks are the fixed deposit rates and also the inflation rate. So for investment benchmarks, it would differ for each type of investment. So for savings or fixed deposits, the typical benchmark is around 2 to 4%. For bonds, it is 3 to 6%, and for stocks, it is 6 to 10% or even more. So what constitutes a good return value? A good return value is highly dependent on these three factors: the risk level, the time period, and the market conditions. Obviously, a good return value is subjective and it mainly depends on the investor. Obviously, each person has different risk levels, so a good return value differs for each person. There is no answer, but as a general guide, I would say 3 to 5% is safe, 6 to 10% is solid, whereas 10% or more is considered strong, but obviously it carries more risk. So how to calculate per year returns? A scenario I've set up is that if your goal was to turn 1000 ringgit into 1500 ringgit in 3 years, it would mean your investment returns would be 50%. But to calculate your per year returns, it is not as simple as just 50% divided by 3. It doesn't work that way. For that, you would have to use the annual return formula, which is the ending value divided by the beginning value to the power of 1 over the number of years minus 1. And using that formula, you will get that you will need returns of 14 to 15% per year. And so you'd have to ask yourself whether that was a realistic goal, or you may have to increase the time period or decrease your investment returns. So obviously your investment period is only going to be 8 weeks, not 3 years. So even though so, I think it is important to set an investment return and also use a benchmark. So you guys in a group would have to collectively decide the percentage of returns, and A word of advice would be to research how much can a market grow in 8 weeks, and maybe you could use that as your investment returns target. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you for listening.